Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Newington Town Council special meeting of Wednesday, July 20th, 2022. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. And the first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item is roll call, please.
Councilor Braverman,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Budrago,
Here.
Councilor Camillo,
Here.
Councilor Donahue,
Here.
Councilor Menke,
Here.
Councilor Nagel,
Here.
Councilor Page,
Here.
Councilor Rada,
Here.
Mayor Del Buono.
Here. All right, thank you. Next item is public participation. I will just remind everyone that because this is a special meeting, the only items that we're able to have public participation on are items that are on the agenda this evening. We are discussing the draft charter report and draft charter language. So anyone may come forward and speak on that. If you are in the Zoom application, you can raise your hand in the participants window, or if you're participating by phone in the Zoom app, you can use *9 to raise your hand to be recognized. Anyone in the room is welcome to come forward to the table and state your name and address for the record as well. I would ask that members of the public keep their comments, I would say professional, but that's not the right word, but hopefully respectful quorum. Respectful, thank you. All right, the first person on, let's see, let me just click over. Our attendees window is Neil Ryan.
Yes. Well, I enjoyed the public hearing so much, I'm back again. Neil Ryan, 237 Brockett Street, still the heart of Newington. First off, I want to know if I could talk about this, because I don't know if it's technically part of the agenda, but it has to do with the charter revision and the vote that's going to be scheduled on the referendum. Can I talk about that? Is that permissible?
If it's related to the draft charter report and charter language, you are able to, yes.
Well, it relates to the vote that would have to be held.
Go
On the
ahead.
revision. On the revision.
Go ahead.
I'm not, oh, okay. Well, the charter revision is required to be voted on via referendum. Ideally, it'd be best if this voting referendum were held on election day this year. That'll ensure better voter turnout. Wherever concerned, this council may attempt to hold this vote as a standalone referendum. I think that could cause some problems. A little clarification, if I may. At the March 7th, 2022 Town Council public hearing on voting districts, it was said of each of the two registers of voters that they have the authority to determine the number of voting districts that will be open for use in conjunction with a standalone referendum vote. They said in such a case, only District 1, the Mortensen Community Center at the Town Hall would be open. And all of you referenced Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-9B, as the section that gives the registrars this authority. Now I have a copy of the statute in front of me. It's very brief. So if I may, I'd like to just read it quickly. Section 7-9B, hours of voting at referendum. Whenever any municipality conducts a referendum on a day other than a state or local election, the polls shall be open between 12 noon and 8 p.m. But any municipality may, any provision of any special act to the contrary notwithstanding, by a vote of its legislative body, provided the polls at any such referendum shall open at an earlier hour, but not earlier than 6 a.m., period. That's all the section says. It's obvious this section doesn't give the registrars the authority to do anything. The registrars aren't even mentioned in the statute. I don't think I've read this statute because the registrars cannot determine that a standalone referendum will be held in one voting location. So you really can't go forward with this idea. So I would urge you to schedule this referendum on election day. It would make things a lot simpler. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, the next caller ID just says Upcar MA. I'm not sure who that is, but if you could state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Manu Chopra, and I like to learn how to participate on your agenda.
Hi, this is public participation regarding our charter draft language. Is that what you're here for?
That's what I'm here to listen in.
If you could state your name and address for the record, and then you can go ahead and speak as long as it's related to the draft charter language.
Okay, my name is Manu Chopra, and I live in Alexandria, Virginia.
I'm sorry, but we're discussing something in the United States. Are you on the right call?
I'm on the right call.
No, it's not the right. Yeah, she's in Alexandria, Virginia. This is not.
Are you on for Newington, Connecticut?
I'm on Newington, Connecticut.
Yeah, I don't know that you're on the right meeting. So this meeting is for Newington, Connecticut.
I'm here for the Newington, Connecticut meeting.
Okay, if you have comments to make, you can go ahead. As long as they're relevant, we'll allow it.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're gonna move on. Thank you. All right, let me just see if there's any other hands up. I don't see any other hands. Anyone in the room wanting to come forward? Okay. Oh, there's.
That's her.
Okay, next item this evening is remarks by counselors on public participation. Counselor, sorry, what? No, none that, we did receive one email, but it was not asked to be added to the record. Go ahead, Counselor Page.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say, and I think I speak for the whole council and for you, council, and for you, Mayor, when I say that while at times we may disagree here on the council, and at times with Mr. Chapman, it's never appropriate to have personal attacks or characterizations, and I think we all reject that per the comments in the previous meeting. And I know we couldn't speak during public hearing. I just wanted to say that here. I think a robust debate is always in order, but no personal attacks. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other counselors related to public comment? I just would agree with Counselor Page, and we try to keep it respectful here, and that is an expectation. So thank you for agreeing with that. All right, next item this evening is consideration of old business. This evening, we are looking to discuss the draft charter report and draft charter language. And the first item we're going to talk about is to discuss comments from the public hearing specifically. So I will just tell you that during our public hearing earlier this evening, we had 2 members of the public speak. We had 1 member of the public who expressed that he is not in favor of taking away the residency requirement for the town manager. He also indicated that he would like to see a radius put in so that if the residency requirement is removed, that there's a certain radius within radius from Newington that would be considered. I'm hoping I'm characterizing that right, if anybody. Okay. And then the second person that we had during public participation was Don Woods from Parks and Recreation Board, who reviewed with us the recommended changes for the Parks and Rec membership and indicated that he would like us to consider adopting what the Charter Commission brought forward to us. Anything else, counselors, that you'd like to add in terms of the discussion of comments from public hearing? Okay, we will move on then to discuss proposed charter language and draft report. So the council did receive a draft report from the Charter Revision Commission. We've had a chance to review that and go through it again with another fine tooth comb, as we did in the beginning. We had given the Charter Commission some suggested changes or asked them to consider about 13, or no, it was less than that. There were 13 different areas that came back to us. We had given them some areas to look at that we were concerned about, and then they came forward with some of their own as well. There is, and I'm assuming this was posted online, James, the draft charter language. Anybody that is following along at home, you can follow along on the draft charter language that is posted on the town website. So each of us received that and went through it. And I will say that myself and my caucus met and we came through with a document of some proposed changes to the language. And then I know some of the other members of the council also went through with a fine tooth comb and came through with some recommendations as well. And we did discuss this earlier to try and figure out the best way to go through this. So I see on the screen, some of our changes are up there first. So I guess I'll do those first and then we'll go ahead and let everybody else have a turn to go through, okay? So on the screen, you will see these were recommended by myself and our caucus. And all right, so you'll see under section 404B, there is language in the charter currently, which we quite frankly, this was an error on our part. We should have thought of this earlier, but there is a section on work sessions. I think some time ago, the council was able to have work sessions that were different from a regular meeting and not public. But that's not allowable anymore under the Freedom of Information Act. All of our meetings need to be made public and posted. So there really is no opportunity to have work sessions in any way. So we were looking to just remove that section 404B from the charter as it's just not relevant anymore. You'll see, I don't know if you, oh, sorry, on the document that I had the town attorney go through and give his input on each of the items that we recommended. And on that one, he was in agreement. He said that was fine if we did choose to move that forward to charter revision for removal. Under section C604, Board of Assessment Appeals, you'll see now there's several here. So under C604, C605, C606, 607, 608, those are all areas of the charter that deal with different committees, commissions. So you'll see Board of Assessment Appeals, Board of Parks and Recreation, Development Commission, Conservation Inland Wetlands Commission, and Commission on Aging and Disabled. This membership of these committees was a pretty hot topic at the charter revision meetings. So I was in attendance, I think, at all but one. The Charter Commission did have Parks and Rec came in to talk about their membership. I know Senior and Disabled Center Director came in and talked about their membership. So there have been some issues, as Mr. Woods mentioned earlier, with the idea of getting a quorum, being able to conduct meetings regularly. I know the council had a presentation from Jamie Trevethan from Senior and Disabled Center, who mentioned that that had been an issue for them over the past year as well. So what we have would like to propose for consideration is the idea of keeping each of these sections in the charter to ensure that these committees stay in existence and continue to have their purpose. But we would like to consider taking membership out of the charter and doing it by ordinance, which is the way all of the other committees and commissions are done. So when something comes up, like Senior and Disabled Center hasn't had a quorum in almost a year, she said. So if they were to come to us and say, we can't get a quorum, we need you to change our membership so we're able to, we would be able to do that in a normal procedure through an ordinance, which is typically, as you guys all know, we do a public hearing. We would have to have it as a new business item, public hearing, and then old business to take action. So it would take 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how we handled it. But it would be able to be done during regular council business versus having to open the entire charter to do so. So we are just proposing that for all of the commissions that we, and we're not recommending any changes to anything that the draft language had in it. So the Charter Revisions Commission came forward with draft language, for example, for Parks and Rec. on what they would recommend, which I'm just gonna turn to that page because that was one that was spoken about earlier. So the language from the Charter Commission came forward with the board consisting of 7 members, 5 from the majority party, 2 from the minority party. We are not suggesting changing that, just merely taking it out of charter and putting it in through ordinance. So just to clarify, and so you'll see the commissions I mentioned are the ones we're looking at. The town attorney, and I have not discussed this with him, he sent this back to me today, mentioned that he suggests leaving conservation inland wetlands as it is, so it's consistent with TPZ. I'm not sure I understand, so I know the town attorney is online. I was gonna ask him to weigh in on that.
Yeah.
Are you there, Ben?
Yeah, no, you're looking to change inland wetlands conservation, and yet you're not changing TPZ. And I just think you should keep those both, which are statutorily enabled commissions, consistent. So I would leave them both in the charter.
So even the numbers of members have to stay in the charter, you think? Like, we're not removing language.
I get that, but I think membership should be the same. Either you're going to do it for both or neither.
Let me just look back, hold on.
The idea is we're not changing membership at all. So with the current wording, particularly for those 2, town planning and zoning and conservation of wetlands, which wasn't even addressed by anything in the draft of the charter, it's just to keep the verbiage, the general purpose of the commission, the fact that there has to be a commission, but just take the number of members and put it in the ordinance.
You know what, though, I'm noticing, I in our document, I did not include TPZ or zoning board of appeals, which are the first 2 listed in the charter. So that was my error. So what you're saying is either both of them or none of it.
Yeah, and I guess I included ZBA with TPZ. So either all of it or none of it. That, I guess, and there's nothing legally that you can't do regarding that. I'm just saying, let's be consistent when it's a statutorily enabled commission.
And I think the idea was for all the commissions.
Yeah, I think I
Just
misrepresented that in the document.
Take the numbers, the membership out and put it in an ordinance versus in the charter.
So then,
I get that. I'm just saying, let's be
Yeah.
consistent when we're dealing with
Exactly,
when something's enabled by state statute.
exactly.
so Attorney Ancona, if I were to add and say all of it, so add C601 and C602 into our recommendation, so all of the memberships would be taken out of charter. Would that make sense to you?
I think it's more logical. Yeah, I do. I think that makes sense.
Okay.
And I will admit to only looking at the inland wetland statutes, but I think we're okay on both.
Okay. So I'm gonna, because this is kind of this end of the day, I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring you guys, but I'm looking down here for head shakes, that you would be okay to modify the language to add those 2 as well.
And Attorney Ancona, if you could, before next
I'll see
week,
if that works.
look at the TPZ, just to make sure that there's, like you said, you only looked at inland's rest, if you can just look at TPZ, just to make sure that it's okay.
I got it, Deputy Mayor. Got it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, we're not looking to take action on this until next week, Tuesday.
Now, this does not include doing the library because there's a special,
Correct.
just to clarify that, because if we make a generalization,
Yeah.
the public may think that we're doing it for that particular board, which is unique for a variety of reasons we don't need to mention right now.
Yep, C603 would be exempt from what we're recommending. So it would be 601, 602, 604, 605, 606, 607, and 608. And 609 doesn't have membership in it, I don't think, right? Just double check.
No, that's your creation.
Right, that's our creation.
Point of
Yes.
process. Do you want discussion as you present these, or should we wait and have everyone present and then we'll discuss?
I think it makes it easier to go through each one, because otherwise we're gonna have to go back through them each again.
Okay, so
Is that
discuss
okay?
as we
I
go.
would discuss each one as we go, yes. So if you have input, absolutely.
Just a question.
Yep.
2, actually. One is regarding the comment about 603. Is that exempting them? Is that because the library has a special status given the autonomy they have
Correct.
and their history as their own?
Their board of
their own
trustees,
entity?
yes.
Okay, just to clarify. And then my only other somewhat of an editorial comment, and maybe seeking clarification, is that the whole conversation about membership strikes me, and this in some ways might go back to Mr. Wood's comments earlier. I'm not sure. With the history of the challenges of finding members to sit on a commission from each of the respective parties, I would want to make sure that we're not making changes in the language relative to membership as a default, when in fact maybe both parties could be doing a better job of securing active membership and therefore achieving caucuses and allowing, for example, senior, disabled, and Park and Rec to do the good work they're doing by having quorums, not caucuses, quorums. And I wonder if we've collectively failed in that way over the last couple of years. I don't know, because I wasn't sitting here. So, and I share that both parties. I'm not throwing stones, okay? I'm just saying, and I would ask us I would invite further public comment on that, not as a Dem Republican thing, but can we both be doing a better job of that and therefore negate the necessity of changing the language around membership? So that was
Are you in general agreement with the idea of moving the membership numbers out of charter into ordinance, or? Well, you don't have to tell me that's not. You tell me that.
I still have to think of that.
Okay.
I still think that.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair. All right.
Thanks.
Counselor Rada, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I
Go
have a
ahead.
question on the first C404B.
Yes.
Recalling that we had a joint orientation session
Mhm.
at the beginning of this term.
Yeah, that was a training though. That wasn't a work session. There wasn't things for us to. So work sessions used to be like, you could get together and talk about a topic and hammer it out before the public meeting, so to speak.
All right.
So that was more of a staff training that wouldn't fit under work session, wouldn't be
Okay,
covered
so
under that.
then my question is, should orientation training be somehow listed in the charter, or is it better if that's more?
I think, yeah, I think as there's turnover in town manager and staff and how we, as a council, want to handle training, to have it tied into charter makes it
Okay.
probably, less is probably more in that regard.
Okay.
I think training should be more
Procedure.
rules and
Yeah.
procedure. That's a good, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think Tim has his hand up.
Tim, go ahead, sorry.
Just sorry, I'm not there. I'm on vacation in New Jersey, so I'm signing in here to. I'm in favor of moving the membership to ordinance. I think as time goes on, we get less and less people willing to volunteer to serve on commissions, boards, and committees for a variety of reasons. I think people are busy. People sometimes don't want the headache, and it would be nice if we could fill all these with, and have commissions and boards that have, tens and 20s of people on them. But realistically, we don't sometimes. And I think by moving them to ordinance, we can adapt to the times much easier than we can by leaving them in charter. If we leave them in charter, we can't change those numbers unless we change the whole charter. We open the charter again, which as we've discovered here, it's a lengthy process. If it's an ordinance, we can change them more quickly. And we may even want to change the scope of what those committees do or boards do based on changing times. So I would be in favor of moving these off, the numbers anyway, the membership off into ordinances where they can more easily be changed.
Okay, thank you. I'll just tag on to that too. I mean, it could go both ways realistically. Things come full circle. So many years ago, committees were 10, 12, 14 members and active and lots of people doing it. So who knows, we may be on the downslide right now and it may swing back around. And that would also give us the opportunity to increase membership. If someone came to us and said, we've only got 5 people, but we have so many more people interested, we'd like to increase our membership. So we'd be able to do that as well,
More open
Through an
for
ordinance.
councils in
Right.
the future.
What?
It leaves it more open for councils in the future when some of us or all of us may not be here, and they won't have to go through the process of opening the charter. And it doesn't like we're preventing them from doing what is necessary during that time period to effectively have town government move along and the different different organizations move on.
Exactly. Thank you.
So any of these meetings can take place on Zoom? Can they?
Yeah, right now, at least through the state legislature, the orders, I would let James speak more to that and how, I don't know the timeline of that, if there's
The
a,
Public Act that went into effect as of July 1st sunset the provision for virtual meetings,
okay.
made it part of the full statute. So towns may utilize a virtual format. We still have to make sure that we're posting our meetings to our website so they're accessible and downloadable by the public. We only have to hold them up for 45 days. For Newington, we keep them on our YouTube page indefinitely at this time.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd just like to touch base on the discussion you are having. So of the 7 items that you are discussing removing the membership from,
Mhm.
5 of those are already listed as ordinances showing membership.
Okay.
One of them is listed as the board itself, which is the Parks and Rec Board specifically. That one does not list its membership in it. And then the last one is the Board of Assessment Appeals. So that one we would have to create an ordinance for, which I know the assessor previously, and I know our new assessor has been interested about adding alternate members to that commission as well, which have been authorized by the statute. So that is something that this council could do through the ordinance format. And as the same with all the rest of them, make the amendments that may be necessary in order to make sure that the town moves forward in its business.
Okay. All right. So that's good to know that many of them are already have an ordinance related. Okay. All right. The next item that we would like to be considered as a change would be in section C 606 Development Commission, the newly recommended language regarding the charge of the committee. We would recommend go into the ordinance with membership as well, just so that as we're seeing it needed to evolve and change now, if it needed to evolve and change as time goes on, we'd be able to do that through ordinance and not have to do a full charter revision to change that as well. The town attorney agreed that that was feasible. And he's not agreeing on content, he's agreeing on whether it's legal or not. Counselor Page.
Maybe I missed a piece, I apologize.
Yep.
Why is C 606 listed separately from the previous discussion?
Because it's not just about membership. So if you look at 606, the draft language that they brought forward included some additional language specific to their charge, so to speak. They wanted to.
And I had questions about that, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
so we wanted to make sure, maybe not put that in charter, but consider that language in an ordinance instead.
Okay, thank you.
And then C711C, section C711C, the language referring to the dog warden. Deputy Mayor Bodraco just brought up that in town, we call her right now the animal control officer. We weren't sure if that was the use of the term dog warden was related to statute or not, but would it make sense to just change the terminology in the charter to be current? Town attorney agreed that that was okay. And then sections, anybody question on that? I'm sorry. I want to go too fast. Okay. Section C901, consider clarifying language to define the certified employees of the Board of Education as those holding a current teacher certification and employed in such capacity. I did run, as I mentioned, this all went to town attorney Ancona. I did speak with our labor attorney relevant to this, and he is still looking into some things on whether or not this is something we would want to do or not. So this is kind of on hold until I can try and get an answer next Tuesday if possible. Right now, the draft language did not change this, even though this was a section the council had asked the charter revision to look at. And essentially what we're proposing is that when you look back at when this language was adopted, and added to the charter, their intent, we would assert the intent was that certified referred to certified teachers. And that's where we've gotten into trouble lately, is that there are many other certifications now versus teacher certification. So in terms of dividing the employees from Board of Ed to town, that's where it gets muddy. And so we're looking back at the language and the discussion that was had back when this language was added into the charter to make sure that we're clarifying and not changing. So really making sure we don't want to change the content. We want to make sure that if there's something muddy there, we can clarify it. So I can certainly bring that back on Tuesday if I get an answer from Attorney Plum. Yes, Counselor Page.
The only potential problem I see with that is that it could then unintentionally exclude other certified groups which may benefit from the current language, and I would just want to think about.
Yeah, right now it's really a matter of who oversees each group. The way it's always been done in the past, teacher certified employees have fallen under the Board of Education, and non-certified employees have fallen under town in terms of the AFSCME union, that kind of thing. And the town manager handles negotiations. And Mr. Chapman, feel free to jump in on this if I'm not doing it right, or if you have anything to add. So it's really just a matter of, right now, there's negotiating that's happening for employees that are under, that are not in the teacher union, that in the past have fallen under the town. And it's causing some division in terms of how those employees that are all under AFSCME may be treated differently, based on who negotiates, essentially. Mr. Chapman, are you trying to add something?
I would agree that what you've described is essentially the problem that has developed over the years. This was brought to light back in 1994, and at that time it was determined by the State Labor Board that all non-certified employees of the board would report and be under the town personnel rules and classification and so forth. But over time, at that time, the understanding was that the certified employees were the teachers. But since then, there's been new certifications that have been added, which probably were not done in accordance with labor law, because the certifications would have had to be adopted by the town council through the classification series. So these employees were, we'll say, required to get certifications that you as a council never had input on and never approved. So it's created a problem where there's at least two, maybe more of the unionized employees that are really questionable as to who they report to and who negotiates their contracts and how they ever got put into place after 1994.
And I will admit openly that this is a little bit of a sticky wicket in making sure, because from our perspective, when we talk about this, we're not looking to change the language. We're looking to clarify. So I want to be really clear about that. We're not looking to make a change, but in looking back at when this was added and in the minutes, still trying to get a little more information if possible, but there was a question asked in the minutes when this certified language at one point was considered. It was by former Mayor Mary Ellen Anderson, who asked during the meeting, are certified employees the teachers? And the answer on the record was yes. And that was the extent of it. So just trying to get some more information to see if there was anything else in the discussion. Counselor Page.
My only question, I don't know if it's a concern, would be that I don't fully I know nothing about labor law, so I'm not questioning Mr. Chapman on that, his comment about the certification of other bodies or professional guilds. But my understanding is certification, being a licensed person myself, and many other people here are licensed in various professions, that the town council of any respective 169 town and cities of Connecticut has nothing to do with that. I thought it was the state of Connecticut that creates and administers licensure and certification, and then we can decide, I believe, as a town, and the Board of Education can decide the extent to which they hire or don't hire members from that certified body.
Right.
So, yeah. So
right.
I would just want to be careful that we're not setting ourselves up to potentially exclude down the road, by extension, also the Board of Ed, a certified guild, and therefore lessen the quality of education that we're delivering to our family, students and families. And so, but I need to learn more about it between now and Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we're not looking to limit any hiring practice. It's just a matter of who would be overseeing the negotiations, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
When you have, people in a union and some are being negotiated with one body and one's being negotiated with another, that makes for some issues. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Retta, did you have something?
Well, no, it was a similar question as Councilor Page, thinking as a nurse who holds a license, and there are nurses in all of the schools in Newington, where do they fall under? Licensed social workers, when they're talking about certified employees.
I know social workers typically, I think, fall under teacher contract. They're teacher certified, just like as myself, I'm a certified speech pathologist, and I also have a teacher certification attached. So certain certificates do, social workers I think do, right? So it's a muddy area. It
It's
is.
tricky.
And,
So I-
and this language has been there forever, so we'll see what Attorney Plum says, if he can guide us on this. He's our labor attorney.
That would be great.
Okay, good. Any other questions? All right, one more. We would like to propose to the Charter Revision Commission consideration of adding at the end some type of definition for shall and may. This has been an issue over the years that has come up numerous times of people trying to say, does shall mean you have to, does may mean you have to, or you don't have to? And there is language that deems that shall should be interpreted as an imperative and not permissive. Yeah, it should be not permissive.
No, I'm sorry, just should be must, right, in your document?
It should be, where are you looking?
I'm
Sorry.
sorry, add definition of shall, may, yes.
Oh, that's the attorney's,
Shall means must, right?
No, I think he's just saying that shall means
Just that.
Just that.
Oh, shall. okay,
And may
I'm
is
sorry.
optional.
Because I
Yep.
understand shall to be must, you must do something.
and that's what
You're
we're, yes,
compelled to
and
do
he's
something.
agreeing with that we, when, in our language, it should be interpreted as imperative,
okay.
and it should say not permissive.
Here, I'm trying to do Council Rada's job on
Yeah.
typos, I'm
And
not
I have a
doing-
typo
I'm not
there.
doing it very well.
So yes, we're looking just to clarify, because that is throughout the charter, the terms shall and may, just adding a definition that shall is imperative and a must, and may is, you can consider it. Council Rada?
And speaking to definitions, I don't recall if there is a page or pages of definitions.
There is
and
not.
I'm wondering if that would be helpful in this kind of a document. I mean, we already have shall and may. Are there other terms that may not be clear or might need definition where we would want to include definition page?
I mean, if there was something brought forward, we could consider it, or the commission could consider it, but right now, the only thing brought forward was shall and may, so, yep.
And this is a cleaner way of doing it rather than going all the way through the charter for wherever there is a shall and may and trying to find different terminology. By
Exactly.
having the definition, you can go back, oh, that is what it means throughout the document.
Right, and that's, speaking to that, all I was saying was, are there possibly other terms that may not be particularly clear that we would want to include in the definition page?
Yeah, that would be up to the commissioner for us to bring forward to them, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It would be important to know the history, I would think, to know if there's been historically any problems with the language, and I don't have that.
But I'd have a question for the attorney specifically.
Okay.
I know we were talking about adding a definition specifically to the charter, but is there a possibility of the council acting to create a definition section in the code that could reference both of those separately? That way it could evolve over time versus having to open every 10 years.
Say that again, James.
If the council were to create an ordinance of definitions, really an ordinance section in the code itself that would address ambiguities such as the shall, the may, the general appropriations, those type of languages that can be confusing for the public, would that be something that could be created separately of the charter process so that, one, you've got the charter done, but you'd have the time to go through it after adoption and create each of those specific to the type of language you really want it defined as versus pushing it through very quickly.
I do think that could be done, but remember, anything outside the charter is permissive authority, and this is primary authority. But I
Okay.
will ask you rhetorically, is it really that hard to understand the difference between shall and may?
You would be surprised how difficult that is.
Excuse me, we had this is why I brought it up.
Open space.
4 or 5 years ago, open space, the council shall put in an amount every year, blah, 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 blah. It hadn't been done for like 20 years. And I said, it shall, and I got pushback from a few people on the council and some staff members. I said, well, shall, it means you could. You know, you don't have to, you could. So it has happened here. We've had the issue. And I did a lot of research. In 1995, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a decision in Gutierrez de Martinez versus Lagmano that under certain contexts, shall could be construed as may. The decision
Yeah.
does not imply that shall always means may, but rather that unless expressly defined, context determines whether shall is mandatory or wishful. So
Deputy
we can
Mayor, I
be,
hear you. I hear you. And there's Connecticut law in the same fashion. I think it's bad law. And I remember in 1969, my mother said, "You shall clean your room."
I would be concerned with putting definitions outside of the charter because would that inherently be if we change the definitions through an ordinance that we're sort of changing the charter? Do you know what I'm?
No, and it goes back to like Robert's rules. It's not primary authority, it's secondary
Okay.
authority. You would look to that for advice, but you don't have to hold to it.
Okay, fair enough. I understand.
I just wanted to know that Councilor Greco has now earned possibly another title, honorary title of counselor as an attorney, because she's studying case law, so.
And Ben obviously cleaned his room because he's still alive. So,
All right, so that wraps up our recommended changes for consideration by the council. As I mentioned earlier, we are not looking to make a motion this evening. We're gonna hear from everyone that has changed recommendations and then look to possibly take action on Tuesday night's regular meeting, council regular meeting. And just, I was remiss earlier in mentioning a member of the public did ask about or suggest that the council is not doing this during a regular election, and that's not true. This council is 100% in agreement that charter is going to go forward for referendum during the regular election this November. So we're not looking to do this outside of regular election. This will be on the ballot in November if we complete the process in time to get language put together and we move it forward as a council from the commission. So I just wanted to clarify that.
hence the special meetings to get it done.
Correct. Hence the special meetings to get it done. You've got it. All right, I will turn it over to you folks. Who wants to go first?
I'd invite Councilor Rada if you'd like to go first.
All right, Councilor Rada, the floor is
And I'm
yours.
going to use my copy because I can't tell on this one which one were my changes and which ones were the original changes from the Charter Revision Committee. So, okay, under section C 202, elected officials. My question was why the registrar of voters is not listed, and they are elected officials.
That I can address for you.
Thank you. I thought you might.
You'll notice at the top of that section, that is for specific town elections that take place every 2 years. Registrars are elected under the state election every 4 years. In our code as well, ironically.
And bear with me, some of these are a little nitpicky. I'm doing my due diligence as editor in chief here. That's it. I'm earning my pay. C 302 under duties, just my suggestion is in the first sentence, and shall have one vote. Currently, it's but only one vote, and only one vote. I don't, the but just sounds weird to me. C 303, excuse me. My suggestion is the mayor and town council shall appoint the town attorney and clerk, sort of the pleasure of the mayor and town council. I noticed that in a couple of these sentences, as we move down under, for example, town attorney, clerk of the council, that in some sections it does include mayor and town council. In other areas, it's just mayor, and I'm suggesting that mayor and town council. So that we as a body, unless there's something very specific that requires that it be the mayor.
Oh, that'll be Ben.
Attorney Ancona.
That's just charter language that governs that, correct, Attorney Ancona?
Yes, but what is that blue I'm seeing?
Those are her proposed changes.
Oh, the
Are
blue.
they, because some of them, the blue, I think, are the, no, the blue, mine are the red changes.
No, you recommended and town council. right?
Yeah, that doesn't come from the.
That wasn't the Charter Revision Commission.
Yeah, the Charter Revision Commission didn't put these changes forward. The and town council.
Okay, because the only ones that I'm, okay. Anyway, that was a suggestion. That
Let me
Mayor
just,
and town
let me just
council-
confirm that in the draft language.
Recommended changes there.
Again, in C, and down in C 403, again, it's
303 is your language and town council. Just to clarify.
yes. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm looking at mine, which is in red and this is in blue. Yes, Attorney and County, you're right. C 403, again, in the second to the last sentence, change the but to and.
And you did have a comment regarding oaths.
Yeah, and I'm
Over that?
over that. Yeah,
Okay.
you know, it doesn't need to be specified. I
Yeah.
don't think. I mean, we, you know, getting into the weeds is making us all crazy.
And that is statutory language as well.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
C 408, it just seemed like, there was a lot of language, some of it seemed to be redundant or confusing, and I was working to try to clarify some of this. So that's why I'm suggesting delete, what you're seeing there, other than the notes, other than notes in the amount of, and just have in excess of, the 1%.
408 or 409?
This is 408, and I think that's why I'm thinking some of this is,
Some of it
these
is
were
proposed.
changes that the Charter Revision Commission committee made.
Yeah, if you look at
Correct.
this document,
Because mine are.
this document has their changes if you want
Yeah,
to
and
compare.
what- And what I did was I went through, used the Word document that James sent to us, so that's why I'm looking, and mine, I think primarily are in red. And at the bottom of C 408, I'm suggesting just so that it can be a little more expedient language that a referendum that starts with a referendum shall not be mandatory when, and it goes down to, and not by general taxation, period. And then the next sentence be such bond or note authorization, or it just breaks up that very long sentence, and for me seemed to be a little clearer. C 410, we, in the first sentence where we are looking at accept an emergency ordinance or special appropriation in the amount of $375,000 or more, shouldn't it be, or less?
No, because an ordinance for a dollar amount in excess of 375, but under 975 currently is only passed by ordinance of the council.
Okay,
Anything under that, you may pass by resolution. Anything over that is by bonding.
okay, and that's, I went back and forth and back and forth, and it,
And that's
Still
the reason we
confused-
utilized,
confused me a
we
bit.
took that out, yeah.
okay. Again, go farther down that paragraph, it's just, again, getting rid of these very long sentences, which, as an anthropologist, we have always been accused of, you can say it in 50 words, why try to say it in 20, right? So I'm trying to cut this down and the one sentence at last completed registry list period, and then a new sentence, the town clerk shall, within 10 days of the petition filing, comma, and then it continues on.
On that one, so say that one again.
So the registry
List,
yeah, whose names appear upon the last completed registry list, I'm suggesting period. And then get rid of which petition shall be filed with, and then start the next sentence with the town clerk shall, within 10 days of the petition filing, determine whether or not.
I would look at you for context on that.
Well, the discussion we had on the Charter Revision Commission was we were going to try to leave the referendum right and initiative sections alone for right now. They get into a very muddy area because they tie into multiple sections as well as the financial section. As far as the ability to match the dates and requirements, that wasn't a problem. We haven't run into an initiative in a while. I'm praying not to. This could be something that goes back to for discussion. I know Attorney Ancona and I had discussed this previously as well. And we talked about reverting the commission's language back, at least for this revision, I should say.
All right. Again, being very new at all of this, I'm looking at this probably with very different eyes than you and, many others who have been reading this. I don't know, so like 10 years since the last revision. C411 initiative, again, just changing some awkward language about recorded 2/3 of the way down. The ordinance shall be adopted if a majority of, and I'm suggesting electors voting thereon, vote in the affirmative.
Attorney Ancona can answer this question a little better, but I believe that language
It just said it's voters voting.
It is, and because this is an initiative section, that initiative may not be something specific to an elector voting, and it could be a townwide vote. In this example, I would think of something like adoption of a historic district or a scenic road, where it's not relative to financial issues for a resident, but they would have the ability under statute to still vote on that initiative. So that's why, and Attorney Ancona, I think you correct me if I was wrong on that.
No, you got it right, Nick, and it could very well be a resident is not an elector.
Correct.
Okay. Which then I'm going to cross off the next, because that speaks right to that. And the next one, this was just a question that I had. It's not going to be anything that we would want to include or change, but just edification. Is there a list of legitimate expenses when we're talking about reimbursement for legitimate expenses?
I did confirm with
My legitimate expenses may be different than Sharon's legitimate expenses or Councilor Braverman's legitimate.
Yes, I did address that with the finance director today. No, there is not a list of expenses. And the finance director prefers that at any time that something will be expended, a purchase order is placed in place before any of that happens. So very rarely will there be that issue. Normally, say we were going to send you all for a conference.
Nothing contentious that I want, okay.
No, no.
All right.
That was one I definitely questions her on, just to make sure that we were clear.
Okay. Under Article 5, the manager, I am requesting, I'm not in approval of deleting the residency requirement for town manager. So my note would be to leave this as it stands. Would be amenable to, as I think one of our callers in suggested, a certain mile radius. And I know that in some towns, the 5 mile radius, I've seen some that are 10, 20 mile radius, but anyway, my choice would be to leave this in and not delete that language. After C503, where it's appointments, and maybe this, I don't think, this really doesn't come under appointments, but I didn't see a section for deputy town manager, and I know we've talked about
Usually
a deputy town manager, and would that, because I know we don't have that, and would there be a place to?
No, typically, because that position has come and gone throughout the years, that would typically be at the, any staffing stuff other than town manager is outside of the charter, so that it's in the classification.
Correct.
Language. So that would be governed under that and not under charter. So that as time goes on, if the needs of the town change, and it's up to the purview of the town manager in terms of the hiring piece. So clarify if I'm wrong.
That is quite correct. The position of assistant town manager, which is what you're referencing, you actually just approved the revised job description about 4 meetings back. That has been in the classification plan since inception of that under the statutes for the merit provisions of the general statutes. That wouldn't be something that would normally be placed under here because at this time, the council doesn't have the purview over that appointment.
All right, that, I wondered about that, but I thought I would ask anyway, just so that we can have that clarified.
Yeah.
The next several, James has given us information in terms of identifying number of members from each party and the percentage from each, and I don't know.
Minority representation.
If you would like to just speak, if there are other people that are on the line listening as to, and I will get rid of all of these.
Certainly. So when we are creating a commission or the commissions that are created within our charter, we always set a specific amount of regular members. Under state statute, those regular members constitute a majority and a minority. Ironically, the statute is called minority representation, not majority representation. But it indicates the maximum amount of members you can have from an individual party that can be placed on that commission. So an example would be the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, which is on the screen under 601 currently, consists of 7 regular members and 3 alternate members. Under 9-167A of the Connecticut General Statutes, a 7-member board has a 5-member maximum party. Doesn't mean you have to meet it up to 5. You could have a point where people come off, parties change. You could be on a 4-3 for decades. But the maximum amount that can be on that is 5. The minimum amount of a minority party would be 2. It doesn't take into account your alternate membership. And we don't have any of the other unusual boards where they're voted in by individual boroughs so that they would be separate outside of it. We are an at-large committee and appoint that way.
All right. But those, we will dispense with any of those. Yeah, you can do it.
No,
Yeah,
please, no,
no.
go with this.
A question that I had on section C703 town planner. The town planner shall have powers and duties that are prescribed by the council or by the manager. And my question was.
Did you want to address your question under 603 first?
Did you finish?
You asked about appointment of the library director by the town manager.
Oh, I'm.
You're good on that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm.
I just want to make sure we didn't bypass it.
Okay, no, 703, my question was, how's the decision, how is it determined whether the decision is by council or by manager?
Actually, specifically, the town planner was removed from the appointment by the town council in the previous revision and turned over to the manager itself. That was a change that was made in the 2012 charter. Previously, the town council used to appoint the town planner.
So then, would the suggestion be to delete by the council? Why is, if that's in there, it sounds like this is.
The only thing I could think of is the
Not the
council could change the job description, but
Right,
in
and
terms of
those
daily
would be the
management, it would be
duties.
the manager.
Yeah. And we have that in every one of them. So if you look at
That's why
engineering
I was a
department,
little surprised, and so that I'm just curious as to why it found its way back in here.
Attorney Ancona, do you have any input on that one? Under 703 in the subsequent sections, the end of the description says
Yeah, they're all
duties
by
that are
council.
prescribed by the council or by the manager.
Right, Mayor, it's everywhere, and I think, I'm just speculating, but I think the prior revision or the founders of the charter wanted to give some latitude and some appropriation to the council. But the ultimate authority as personnel director is with the town manager.
But the duties, where I'm getting stuck on is the duties prescribed, the powers and duties that are prescribed. The prescribed word is making me wonder if that's relating to like job description or how we would make changes to a classification.
you would
Yeah, I
do it
think
through the
you're right.
job description amendment
Right.
process.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know if that's why they're both in there is my point. I don't know.
It's a very, I don't know why it's in there, frankly. I'm telling quite honestly. But I'm
Wait, say
guessing
that again, because you broke up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm guessing that someone wanted to throw a bone to the council when this was drafted.
Well, it sounds like, I don't disagree necessarily, Council Red, but it sounds like it gives us latitude, both the council and the manager, should there be any concerns about the functioning of that office or the duties therein. And it gives us a chance to weigh in on that.
And you always will, because as the personnel director, the town manager always brings the job descriptions to the council for review prior to adoption.
Right.
So it's a cohesive program that the both of you work together on to determine specific duties as they evolve over time, as we've been doing right along.
So does this language seem appropriate the way it's saying it now? By the council or by the manager?
I'm not an expert. I don't know.
Asking.
Attorney Ancona, do you feel that that language as it stands is okay or should be changed?
No, I don't see any problem with it.
What is?
He doesn't have any problem.
Okay.
Doesn't see a problem with
Okay.
it.
See, 710, it's just the very last sentence. The Director of Senior and Disabled Center Services shall be the town's municipal agent for elderly persons and for elderly and disabled persons, since it is the Senior and Disabled Center.
Actually, this is a statutory provision. I believe the term is town municipal agent for elderly persons, if I remember correctly. Are you sure on that one, Ben?
Yeah, I'm actually with Councilor Rada on this. I don't like it. I'm with her.
I was wondering too, if it was statutory, the way it was worded though, the town's municipal agent, does it have to be listed who for elderly? That's what I was wondering too when I.
Yeah, we usually do.
Agency is a state law provision, and I agree. I think you should include the provision of disabled. It just seems wrong. It feels wrong.
So then I would suggest municipal agent for elderly and disabled persons.
I agree.
Thank you, Attorney Ancona. We don't need to discuss the next item. I think that may be it, except for, one or two commas that I may have overlooked.
Additional notes on the side.
Thank you.
Any discussion on Councilor Rada's changes at this point? Okay. Councilor Page, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have a few. Section 408. Really a question, why do we use the term general fund appropriation and not total appropriations town and board? How do we come to that term? Is that statutorily driven or is that something we define?
The Charter Revision Commission came forward with the language of the general fund. Actually, no, I'm sorry. The finance director asked for general fund appropriation. The Charter Revision Commission came forward with, I don't think I have it in front of me right here now, a slightly different term, which the finance director wasn't as comfortable with. She felt general fund appropriations in the current year clarified it much more so, because that would include everything in general, including the CIP account.
So maybe that answers my question, because I assumed, and it sounds like I'm wrong, that the general fund refers to just the town side. But are you saying that the intent here is for it to be all inclusive of town and Board of Ed side?
Let me read it again.
Yes, this would be the complete budget of the town itself collectively, correct.
Gotcha.
So at this point, that 1.5% would work out to be roughly $2.1 million.
Because it's general fund appropriation. So we oftentimes talk about general fund balance. And that's more like what's left in the bank on our side, so to speak.
That's what I've been.
But when you look at the budget book, the general fund appropriation refers to the entire budget,
Okay.
if I'm not wrong. That's my understanding of it.
Okay, I just.
And she did have a lot of input. Janet was involved with the charter commission on this. And I know the chairman's on the line, so I don't know, Joe, if you have anything to add to that about your discussion on that, but I think Janet really gave you guidance on the language there.
That's fine.
Yes, Madam Mayor, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Yeah, she did come to a full work session one evening and we went through that. And the reason that we went to a percentage over general fund appropriations and expenditures was, well, most of our neighboring towns were doing it. But more importantly, there was a flat rate in there that was over 10 years old. The 975,000 hadn't been touched in 10 years, and the number before that hadn't been touched for 10 years prior to the 975 being established. And so one would wonder what the metric was, the level of measurement for that money. You know, what was it based on? It was really more of a dart throw, not being critical of anybody, but that's what it was. So in this fact, we'll know that we're at a percentage, and as the general fund amount changes through growth or through recession, that number will be adjusted. So you don't have to worry about going back and setting another percentage necessarily. But this, she did give it her blessing at the last meeting that we had with her.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. My next comment would be on section 501. Like Council Rada, I disagree with removing the residency requirement for the town manager. I think having the town manager be a resident of Newington is better for our town. It's better for the functioning of our town. And while any town manager, whether they're physically present or out of town for whatever reason, is capable of functioning, I think overall we're better served by having them here in the town. So I just wanted to get that on record. In section 605, I guess this has already been addressed. I would just invite us to consider, given the clarification from James on the statutorily driven definition of minority and majority representation, I would ask that we consider rebalancing the numbers that are proposed from the Charter Commission to be more reflective of an equal, a better balance of minority and majority representation, regardless of which parties in the majority. And you know, somebody once said earlier, everything comes around full circle. I think it's in both parties' interest to have not such a discrepancy of 5-2, for example, even though we're allowed that under statute. I would rather see, for example, a 4-3 split and give the voice of the minority a little bit more voice on those discussions. So that's my comment on that. And in section 606,
Can I ask a question on that? Aren't all the numbers being moved to the ordinance?
Yes, well, that's a proposed change.
Well, that would include the makeup too, right?
Correct. So that was, right, so I guess Councilor Donahue's point would be, if we decided to move membership to ordinance, then that discussion would happen more when we do the ordinance.
I got it.
Yeah, if we did end up agreeing to move membership out of charter, yeah.
It would certainly expedite how the committees operate and, you know, as you said, you know, whatever turns around, right?
I hear you. I was just, as I was looking at the document, and it was referencing changing from 11 members to 7.
Yeah,
That was recommended by the board.
Right. Okay.
Parks and Rec board.
Okay.
They asked for the 7, but they asked for it to be 4-3. And I think Charter Commission brought back
Go to ordinance. 5-2.
the 5-2 to stick with ordinance, so it's uniform. Yeah.
I got you. So I'm just maybe.
No, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah, that makes sense if we end up moving
If
it
we go
out.
to
Yeah.
ordinance, if we don't, then I certainly feel that we need to do what I suggested. So,
Well, and that could still be your argument when we do,
Sure,
if
sure.
we do ordinance
if we
too.
ever could,
Yep.
right. And then
606.
in 606, yeah, the change to and the town council. Did we discuss this already? Let's see. What is the purpose of the language change? It's really a question. In other words, it says here, there should be a development commission consisting of 9 regular members. 3 alternate members have the power and duties conferred upon the Connecticut general statutes or by ordinance. Wouldn't it be and by the Connecticut general statutes and the town council?
No, because the town council would adopt the ordinance. So under chapter 8, Article 8, Developing Commission, you've created the commission designation, their membership, and their alternate members. Their duties come from the statute itself.
Okay. Well, and then my other last comment on this, and I go on this way, is the Development Commission may conduct research into economic conditions and trends in the municipality, recommend actions to improve, et cetera. Do they do any of this now?
This has been language that's been recommended by the chairman specifically, that's statutory, that was not included either in our ordinance or in the original charter. So he wanted to ensure that the commission, as well as the council and the town in general, were aware of the additional duties that may be placed upon them, which maybe have a financial piece to them as well, that the council may need to be aware of.
Okay. Right, and the only reason I'm asking is just to think about the shall may, here we go again, is I don't know that if they do, then I'll apologize in advance to everybody who's ever served on this commission. But I didn't know that they did these things. And it sounds like in creating more substantive body and in doing these things, does the council or the town, because it's not us, it's the town who's going to decide this language, want to be more compelling in their language and use shall on any of these tasks, to expect that of them, to make it a more substantive body in engaging in economic activity.
So I think Commissioner Harpy could address that slightly, but the reason the commission came forward with may was under the possibility that the council did not fund those. They wouldn't be able to complete that duty, which is why they continued with may instead of shall.
Okay. And it's really, again, just a side comment that I think it bears, and I welcome the public's comments on this, which is to empower that body as best we can to do the good work of economic development moving forward. And yeah.
And we had mentioned too, the possibility of taking that additional language and putting it through the ordinance also, so that as statute changes or as needs change, if they came forward to us and said, we really want to do this, and this, we're not doing this, and wanted us to change it in the future, instead of opening charter, we'd be able to do it through ordinance. So that was our thought process there.
And I guess the only one was 608, and it's really, I think it's just the same issue about quorum and membership, so I'm not going to waste any more time, because we've already addressed that.
Oh, okay.
Membership, and that's all I got.
Okay,
Thank
great,
you.
thank you. So counselors, one last go around on any questions for Counselor Page regarding his recommendations. Counselor Menke.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If Counselor Page and Counselor Rada could give us a clean copy of their changes. I know we've talked about a lot, and some they've taken out, some they left in. I think that would help us before next Tuesday's meeting, because I'm having trouble writing them out down here. So if we could get a clean copy of what they're proposing, I think that would help us before next Tuesday's meeting.
We'll get that to
Be
you
happy to.
promptly in the next 24 hours. We'll get you one piece of paper with all that stuff on there.
Well, I'm on
Absolutely.
vacation until Friday, so I'm not gonna look until Friday anyway, so I'll keep it a Friday.
If you could too, just forward it to Attorney Ancona, just so he can double check everything and make sure.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we've done public comment, we've done the charter language and draft report discussion, referral of proposed language amendments to the Charter Revision Commission. I'm looking for a consensus. I believe we are in agreement to hold off on that until next Tuesday,
Thank you.
correct? All right, everybody's shaking their head, so we're gonna not entertain a motion for that. And so just a quick, again, for the public's sake, and first of all, I want to thank Commissioner Harpy, who's on here. He was the chair of the draft of the Charter Revision Commission and the entire committee, because I know they had many meetings and many discussions, and I would commend them on the open discussions that they had. And I really was appreciative in the meetings I took part in that they included town staff and people from commissions and whoever they could get information from. So I'm appreciative that you put so much time and effort into your deliberations. And the document that you brought forward to the council with the draft language is really comprehensive, and we appreciate your efforts. And it sounds like a ton tonight that we talked about for additional considerations, but we'll make sure we compile these together and make it pretty easy. And then on Tuesday, we will be looking as a council to come to a consensus or majority vote, I guess it will end up being on each item that we want to bring forward. And then a list of those requests would be sent back to the Charter Revision Commission for their consideration, at which point they will send to us
Final draft report.
So their final report. So after we make our recommendations back and ask for their consideration on things, they will review, discuss, and pass their final report back to us. And then it'll be up to this council to determine if we have any other public hearings or if we would go ahead and adopt the language as proposed and move forward to referendum with that. Okay, I always look at you to make sure I got it right.
Once you do receive the final draft, you do have the option to hold another public hearing. That is your choice.
Let's think about. All right, so Councilor Rada, you have your hand up.
Yes, just again, commendation to the Charter Revision Committee. I know that this was a huge amount of work. We wouldn't have been able to go through and propose any additional edits or ask any questions if you all hadn't done this work and brought that to us. So thank you again. And please note that your work is duly noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see. So we are moving on now to public participation. Any member of the public can participate by raising your hand in the Zoom application on your phone. *9 will do that for you, and we would know you want to be recognized. Anyone in the room is welcome to come forward. We just ask that you please state your name and address for the record. And let's see, we have Don Woods first. Mr. Woods, welcome.
Hello again, Don Woods, excuse me, 82 Ivy Lane. I just want to clarify that, yes, the board did request a 7-member commission. No question about that. But we did request a different configuration of that board. The board talked extensively about a 5-2 configuration. We don't feel it's going to work. And I know there's options to change it after the fact, but why change it if we already know there's a better way to move forward? I believe under ordinance, the board can be configured in that configuration 4-3. It's definitely a bipartisan board. It just gives each side of the parties an equal chance to get representation and hopefully members that will attend. So again, I appreciate the board list. I mean, the Joe Harpy and his commission listing and the council listing, but honestly, that's not what we wanted. And I think the last things we said was, if you couldn't give us the 4-3, leave us alone and we'll try to get better. So I can't stress it enough. The board feels strongly that 5-2 is not a good way to go. That's all I have to say. I don't know if it can go back and forth, but we're disappointed. Well, I'm disappointed for sure, and I'm speaking for the board. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me just check the attendees window one more time. I don't see any hands up, but I'll give it a second to see if anybody raises their hand. All right, I don't see anyone. Anyone in the room that wants to come up? No one's coming forward to the mic? Okay, we will continue on then to remarks by counselors. Counselor Donahue?
Yeah, I'm trying to go back, and the current Park and Rec makeup, didn't the R's give up one of their seats to a D? You just for, right? It's not a hard, fast rule.
Correct.
That we have to fill every position, right? I mean, and I think, there was cooperation there where we said, you have somebody that really wants to be on P&R board, or P&R committee, we don't have anybody, go ahead, put your person on.
Yeah,
So,
the
it's
statutory
not-
language is the maximum minimum. It's not.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, it's not, I don't think it's as, big of an issue as it could be.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Mankey?
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Woods that the Parks and Rec Board is truly bipartisan. I would hope all boards and commissions are truly bipartisan. And I don't think we're deciding today on numbers of boards and commissions. We're just deferring that to another day to argue or fight or discuss, make up when we get to the ordinance part of it. I think we're saying, take the numbers out of the charter so we can easily upscale them or downscale them depending on circumstances. And at that point, then the discussion of 4 and 3 or 5 and 7 or 7 and 4, those all would make a difference at that point. But at this point, we're just asking that we take all those numbers out of the charter and deal with them through ordinance, which can be changed faster than the charter. So hopefully the 11 members come to join the Parks and Rec, and I've been to a number of their meetings, and they're doing better with attendance, and hopefully that continues. But if it doesn't, we can always then adjust it at that point through easier through charter, through ordinance than we can through charter.
Okay, thank you. And I'm a little jealous of the sunburn, by the way, just saying. Looks like you got some nice sun over there. All right, Counselor Page?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just, again, as Councilor Rada and you, Mayor, did thank the Charter Revision Commission for all their hard work. It is really appreciated. And I would hope that moving forward, the public turns out. Whatever your opinion, please get involved. Please participate in this process. There are a lot of folks, Charter Revision, who have worked hard on this. We're committed to this work and to work together to make this a better town, a better document for our town. And I've made my position pretty clear on town manager as the CEO of our town. We're a strong town manager, form of government here, and I think it's important that that person, regardless of who they are, which party's in charge, be living in our town. And I want to hear from the public on this, regardless of your point of view. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Counselor Nagel?
I wanted to emphasize that our job has been made easier because of the Charter Commission Committee. And while we have added things and thought of changing things, we would have had an infinitely more difficult road to hoe here if we had tried to do it as a council ourselves, or if the commission that was put together was not as effective and conscientious as they were. So I want to emphasize that side of it and thank them personally for what they've done.
Any other council comment? All right. I believe we're at looking for an adjournment. Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Camillo, seconded by Counselor Rada. And any discussion?
Yeah, by the council.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned at 8:23 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Enjoy your vacation.
Yeah, go have fun, Tim.
Thanks.